Hello and welcome to a new edition of the WION Sports broadband edition with me, Digvijay Singh there. My guest today needs no introduction. You can see on your screens that I have with me Abhinav Bindra, India's only Olympic individual gold medalist. Now, I know Abhinav for nearly 2 decades now, and I must confess that each time I sit down with him for an interview, I am completely petrified because Abhinav does not take too kindly to half-baked questions. So, Abhinav, I'm going to be careful as always. Let me start by asking you, Abhinav, the decision to announce dates for the Olympic Games in Tokyo, 23rd of July. In a sense, that should end this period of uncertainty for all the athletes around the world.
Yeah, I think so. I think the decision has been made pretty quickly. I think even if you go back to a week or a couple of weeks, I know there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of talk about the games getting postponed. But I think the IOC has, in all fairness, when you look at it in hindsight, taken pretty prompt decision. I think they came up with a 4-week time frame, but they only used less than half of it, and have already announced the dates for the games, which I think is very good for the athletes. I think there was an immense amount of anxiety building amongst them, and there was also a safeguarding issue because just the way that athletes work. I think if there was uncertainty, they would have just kept going on and kept training, risking their own health, risking the health of others around them. So I think it's been a good decision and a responsible decision, and I'm glad that it's happened quite quickly.
You speak about stakeholders, but I think one must laud Japan as well, Abhinav, because they're already saying that the cost for pushing these games back by a year could swing between $3 billion to $6 billion. That's a lot of money, and ultimately it's going to be paid for by the Japanese taxpayers. And I think this has not been addressed, that ultimately this cost has to be borne by someone, and the Japanese need to be lauded for agreeing to this decision as well.
Absolutely, and especially in today's times, especially in the economic situation that the world is currently facing and what the world is going to face in the months ahead because of the scenario we face. So I think it is extremely laudable. I think Japanese are extremely determined to make sure that they have an excellent Olympic Games. I think the preparations for the Games have been the best ever. I mean, in terms of venues, in terms of getting everything done, the Japanese have done a fantastic job, and they remain very committed and very determined to actually host the best ever games ever. And I think, and I hope and pray that will be the case.
Abhinav, you've been aware of what's been going on because even though you finished your career as an athlete, you are a member of the IOC's Athletes Commission as well. There have been lots of conversations between all of you under the leadership of Kirsty Coventry. You've even interacted with the IOC President Thomas Bach. And, the fact remains that, this, in a sense, this decision came about so fast because of the pushback from the athletes. And the fact remains that they were not being able to train to the best of their abilities.
I think the athletes' viewpoint was given absolute due consideration. I think one thing which is very good with the IOC is that the athlete's voice is always respected and the athlete's voice is always listened to. In every decision of the IOC, in every commission of the IOC, there's always an athlete's representative. I think even if you look at the way forward, I think safeguarding athletes and safeguarding athletes' health is of prime importance. If you look at the next principles and the next steps for qualification tournaments as well, I think you would see that all Olympic qualification tournaments at the moment are currently suspended, and they can only the directive given to IFs is that you can only schedule them when you can guarantee fair access and appropriate preparation for competing athletes. So I think that is something also very important to athletes because going forward, because I think 40% of athletes are still yet to qualify for the games, and you want to give them a fair opportunity even for the qualification tournaments. Of course, the Olympic Games are July 2021, but there's a process behind it. There's a process that athletes have to go through. And I think safeguarding athletes' health is of prime importance, and I think that's been given due consideration with the postponement, but also with the principles that have been laid out to IFs in terms of further scheduling of qualification tournaments. I think that.
But just finally, one set of questions on this on the quota process, because it's, I think, fair when we look at this entire process leading up to 2021 Olympic Games now, that you have to look at two sets of athletes, one who have a quota, which is about 58%, and the IOC has already come out and said that these people or the countries which have won these quotas will retain their quotas. The second lot is the 42% you mentioned, who do not have a quota yet because the global sporting calendar was wiped out. The first priority seems to be them, and you clearly mentioned a short while back that the IOC has said that you have to be fair to every athlete. I'm a bit concerned about this athlete who is still to win a quota, because there is so much uncertainty, because they still can't get out of the house, especially say you're in India or you're somewhere in Europe or in the United States. You can't get out of your house and train. And how do you even think of, going through a qualifying process? Do you think the way things stand and the way things are looking right now, we're not looking at any kind of a Olympic quota tournament before, say, October?
Yeah, I think that too. I think again, it's all speculation. We don't really know when this scenario will end. But I think, from an IOC's point of view, I think and the directive given to IS is very clear. Again, it's to guarantee fair access, and I think appropriate preparation for athletes. I think that is an element which has been taken into consideration already. We really don't know when the scenario will end, because there are some nations who've given travel advisories already for 6 months. I mean, at the moment, all Olympic qualifiers remain suspended, and it would, in the best case scenario, just looking at how things are shaping up as of today, I don't see them resuming before the end of the year or perhaps early next year. Which hopefully would, I think the good thing with the 15-month window that we have is that it also gives enough time for scheduling. I think one of the big challenges that was happening in the previous circumstance was the qualifying tournaments and the lack of time and to fit everything in. But hopefully things would settle down in the months to come. That is the hope that we all live in, and some sort of calendar could resume at the earliest. But at the moment, things remain suspended.